Good evening. I would like to bring to order the March 19th, 2025 meeting of the Sandwich Conservation Commission. My name is James Andrea. Present tonight are
Jeremy Shea,
Kimberly Walsh,
Jonathan Klein,
Bernice Waller,
Tyler Greengrove.
Linda Romano with my mouthful.
Can I do my motion now?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Linda Romano as a voting member tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Please note this meeting is being recorded live and streaming on Sandwich Community Television. Live broadcast can be viewed by visiting sandwichcommunitytv.org or on Government Live Stream, or you can view later on Government On Demand. You can also view on local Comcast Channel 9. I would like to remind everyone of our meeting format. For all hearings, the applicant will be allowed adequate time to present their project to the Commission. Upon completion of presentation, the Commission will be allowed to question the applicant, ensue Commission discussion, and ask for staff comment and input. Upon completion of the Commission's discussion, I will read, summarize for the record, any public comment received by the staff prior to the meeting. I will announce public comment to the audience where any interested parties are to raise their hand. I will ask you to come up front. Please speak clearly into the microphone, which is now above us, stating your name, address, and affiliation for the record. 3 minutes will be allowed. All speakers are to address the Commission, not applicants or audience members. When your 3 minutes are up, I will ask you to take your seat. A reminder, all public comment is not a Q&A forum. Upon closure of public comment, the applicant may add additional information comment to the Commissioners. The Commissioners will deliberate among staff. Finally, I want to remind everyone that this Commission is comprised of your neighbors volunteering our valuable time to help protect our town's natural resources to the best of our abilities. Our job is to uphold the provisions set forth by the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, as well as the Town of Sandwich Wetland Bylaws, Chapter 7. We appreciate your understanding. I would like to make a change to the agenda and bring other business to the front quickly and swiftly.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board. Dave DeCondron, Department of Natural Resources Director. With me is Chief Burke from the Fire Department. And tonight we're just going to give you a brief outline of some things we'd like to do up at Upper Shawm Dam. So if you don't know where the Upper Shawm Dam is the map here. There are two dams that our department manages. There's one at the lower dam. You wouldn't even realize that it is a dam. It's along the grist mill, and this upper dam where we have another fish ladder. If you want to go to the next slide, Alex. As part of the maintenance of the dam, we're required to remove vegetation every year. This dam was a rebuild back in 2008. It was a 100-year-old dam that was built over cedar posts with earth over it, and it had so many trees on it that it just deteriorated. This new one has a concrete spine underneath with earth over it, but we're still required to remove vegetation. If you have too many roots in the system through capillary action, it breaks the dam down. We don't want to have what happened a number of years ago. So I've been talking to Chief Burke about the possibility of having some firefighter training this year to help manage the vegetation. I'm going to let Chief Burke talk about what that would be like.
Thank you, Dave. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for giving me your time. One of the things we noticed with the fire department is wildland fires are on the increase, and I have 75% of my staff has turned over in the last 10 years. So I have 3/4 of my staff that are inexperienced with wildland firefighting. So talking with Dave, one of the things we were looking to do is be able to start training them in a controlled environment on tools, portable pumps. We thought this was an excellent opportunity with a very small area for our newer people to get some training, collaborate with DNR, also address a need that he had moving forward. So I approached him on it. We've scouted out the area. There's actually 3 sections that are fenced in. We have 3 groups that'll be training, so each group gets a section. I promise I won't burn the fence. We're only going to burn in that particular area, and it's more hand tools that they're going to be practicing with. We have drip torches. The Department of Conservation and Recreation Forest Fire Group will be leading the training and will be there. So it's a fairly small area, but it gives us an opportunity to have some training, and it also opens the door for future collaboration, which I think is important. If there's other areas of town that we can do some training in, whether it's chainsaws or small controlled or prescribed burns like this, we would like to pursue that, but we feel this is the first opportunity. We'll see how it goes, and it does provide our staff with some very valuable exposure.
The only other thing I'd like to add is a number of years ago, our department wrote a fire plan for the conservation lands that are known as Maple Swamp and Discovery Hill. So there is a map. I didn't bring it tonight because it wasn't, I wanted to make it short. I know you got a big meeting, but maybe in the future I could bring it forward and show it to you. And, that's what Chief Burke's talking about, is collaborating in the future. We did have the opportunity back in 2019 to actually do a prescribed burn on some of that property. And unfortunately with COVID, we couldn't get all the permits. The last permit we need to get sat on someone's desk because they were working at home. And we had 3 days that we could get the burn in. And of course it was windy all 3 days. But I'd be more than happy to come back at some time with Chief Burke and do a full presentation of what that looks like and all the work that we've done. Because it's very important work. I know Jeremy knows because you just had a forum on it, but it's extremely important as far as the life of the forest when you get into the forested areas to do these prescribed burns. And this is just a quick start.
And as part of that, I'll mention the county has a wildfire protection plan that was done in 2012 that has not been updated. There is grant money coming forward to have that. That's an overlay to the town's plan. So obviously you will be able to review that. And I think where we're at now, where we were 15 years ago, are completely different in terms of wildfire management, what we're seeing. And I think we want to be prepared. And like I said to Dave, I think this is a really great opportunity to start some collaborative training, I think, moving forward. So I'd appreciate your support with this.
I'm psyched about this project. This has been something I've been writing about for years. I guess the county one I'm psyched out for too. I think my one question is the county, I know they were talking about AmeriCorps coming in, which is great. We love AmeriCorps. Would you be open to citizens? Because I think for me, and 1637, we had the citizens burn committee that went out into the woods. Mm-hmm. And I think I love the department getting trained, but when it comes to the vastness of Sandwich and the forests, having citizen engagement, I think would be really important. Your department can only do so much. Yep. I saw him knocking down a fire on Farmersville on Saturday. Yep. I drove by the guy burning brush and I was like, ooh, it's windy. And then 3 hours later drove back and was like, all right, well, that happened. Yeah. So I would love to attend. So I don't know if that's something that you'd be open to, or certainly as your first, maybe you're like, we just want the department. Maybe some going down the road. And
I think that speaks to the collaboration. So it's not necessarily DNR restricted collaboration. You folks represent the conservation of the community. So I have no issue with observers and people watching what we're going to be doing. More eyes is better. I will mention we're not expecting a ton of smoke from this. So you won't be driving down Route 130 and see columns of smoke coming up from this particular training burn. We're going to be doing notifications to the community and we're planning on doing this the 25th. Monday we'll start our notifications out for that. But yeah, I agree with you. More the merrier in terms of, and if you're bored and you have time, if you go to YouTube, the 1945 fire that started in Bourne and went right through Lakewood Hills, Chase Road, they made a stop there. DCR does a great video, and you can see the East Sandwich Grange Hall being the command post for that, and it shows how quickly fire can spread.
Started by Nazis. The POWs on the base.
Wow. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the Enterprise going to send a reporter to Chronicle?
Yep, and I think they want to see, just to be educated on hand tools and other methods of wildland firefighting. It's a completely different set of gear that our members wear when they go out there. The tools are different, the strategies are different. We have drones now that can do overflights with thermography so we can see hotspots. So it gives all of the elements of our department the opportunity to train in an area that they don't get a lot of training in. So I'm looking forward to it.
So how does the process work, logistically? Is there an NOI process, or what is the approval, or is this?
So depending on the size, you get into NOIs if we get to bigger land masses. This is small enough where we don't need to. DEP is aware.
So just informing us that this is happening?
Yep.
Yeah. And there will be no chemical retardants or anything that are used?
Nope.
Because you're gonna fight the fire with dirt?
We're gonna try to put it out with hand tools. Now, we'll have the portable pump set up, which will draft out of the pond. That's more to practice extracting water, drafting water from there. But as you can see, this area is small enough where we should not need water if need be. But if we do, our 6x6 Polaris has 200 gallons. It'll have a hose line. The goal is not to use water, I'll put it to you that way. But we will wet it down when we're done anyways, just to make sure, but there'll be no foam, there'll be nothing chemically based.
And thank you for putting up the herring run. So the timing on this is perfect because this is before the herring start to make their migration up there, which is typically the end of April.
Say the date again that you're aiming for?
March 25th,
March 25th.
Tuesday, yep. Rain or shine. If it's really raining, we probably will put it off, but again, with hand tool practice, we want to make sure we utilize the time we have.
Do you know the, like, general time of day?
So 3 rotations starting at 9, 10:30, and 12. So pick your poison in between that time period. There'll be 3 working groups. So if you're anywhere between 9 and 1 o'clock, you'll see some action there.
Perfect, we'll be there.
Well, thank you for bringing it to us. And,
And like Dave said, we'll keep you updated as we move forward. I feel it's a good first step.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you,
thanks,
folks.
guys.
Thank you.
Back to the agenda as it follows. Opening a new file, RDA file number SCC 2025D-03 Lakewood Farms Trust, care of Cape and Islands Engineering Incorporated, has filed a request for determination of applicability. Wow. Proposed deck replacement on a single-family dwelling, 21 Great Hill Road, Sandwich, Mass, located at map 19, lot 11. Sure.
Good evening.
She's just gonna grab an easel for your plan. I didn't realize we didn't grab it because we have the big TV now. You can go ahead.
Okay. Before you tonight, representing the clients, Lakewood Farms Trust at 21 Great Hill Road. I have a fairly straightforward project. We're replacing existing deteriorated deck and footings. It'll be replaced in the same location with no expansion. Construction access and staging will be in the upland. And we're going to use the existing driveway to access the site. Work limit will be established prior to any work, and work will be done by hand, apart from using a small mini excavator to dig out the undersized footings underneath the deck and digging small, they're just going to be sonotubes, and all work will be within previously permitted and previously disturbed areas. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
I'd like to open up to staff comments.
So I believe this was something that Chuck, who was conservation agent prior to me during that interim time, he had started and done site visits, recommended, I believe he recommended an RDA filing at that time. Were you in NHESP habitat at all?
So we did file with NHESP, and we believe that we are exempt.
Okay. Do we have a copy of that letter, just that, or email correspondence showing the exemption? I had a note on here for an HESP letter needed, but I wasn't sure.
Yes, so we have not heard back from them.
Okay.
And I can either give you what we have, I have paper copies right here, or I'll forward it to you.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. And then I believe I spoke with one of the folks working on that project who had some questions about erosion control measures. I forgot his name, he just came to the front counter. And we were talking about silt fence or wattle. You don't have to use both. And he was talking about using silt fencing. A wattle might be easier given the grade of the pond and how steep it is over there, but whichever works best for you guys, just to limit any erosion going into the pond. And then I would recommend a -3 determination with standard conditions along with that, if you guys are okay with that as well.
I'd like to open up to public comment. Closing public comment and open it up to the board. Anyone have any questions?
What kind of, are you using real wood? Or are you using plastic wood?
For the decking,
Yeah.
I didn't really ask what the material is for the decking, but the real bigger issue is that it's deteriorated and the footings are just too small. And so that to meet current building code standards, we're gonna have to beef up the footings.
So you'll have some soil disturbance.
Yeah, and it's not like a full foundation, it's just the sonotubes,
Yep.
so.
Jenna, is it okay if we condition like a silt sock rather than a wall? Like a straw wall?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's similar to a wattle in
Yeah.
like function, right?
Yeah, I just think it does.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that.
I think, like they have, the combination is actually the best, because if you just do a silt
Absolutely.
fence, what happens is it goes through. If you have the combination, it not only demarcates the line of limit of work
Yeah.
above, and then if for some reason it's like trash and things go up there. So I would say the
Both,
combination that they
Yeah.
have is actually the best management
Yeah,
practice.
and we can condition that to say it. Our conditions say one or the other, but I've been with other commissions that have both.
Yeah.
And it's an entrenched wattle, and then the silt fence goes under the wattle, and then it's staked through the wattle and the silt fence cradle. So it's like
Yeah.
super, super secure.
Yeah, it has to
So you don't have
flip
your
either
silt
way.
fence flipping
If it
around.
flips, if the fence flips the other way, so things can't get in, flips the other way if it can retain soil.
And it only has to go on the down gradient edge. The erosion control doesn't have to go around the entire work limit. That's what the high-vis fencing is for. Then the erosion control is just the edge near the pond where you
Just,
guys
I think we should condition it with something, that would do better than the straw wattle because of the seriousness of the
pretty
grade.
steep,
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of lines on that.
we're thinking both.
Yeah, yeah.
Silt sock. is that what you
Silt
call it?
sock, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, silt fence,
Silt sock and fence.
We want to be sure to get that letter from Natural Heritage, because it is in the.
yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have to
Fire
continue,
department.
we need the letter before we could approve it, but that's all right.
fine.
Or the correspondence of an exemption, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't reply back, but
That's fine.
I think I'll be at the next hearing.
Okay,
I did see your letter, so yeah.
all right. All right, is that all good? We'll do.
Vegetation wise, certainly those footings, I'm guessing they kind of look like high bush blueberries to me. Are you expecting to remove?
I was not, so I have these photos here, and we can like go in there and like almost auger out and extract. There's no reason to dig a massive hole in there or anything like that. I think that we can fairly surgically dig a footing in there.
Awesome.
We can do a continuance and we'll do it on the next one. Just wait for that letter, okay? But the next one's 4-3.
4-2?
4-2.
4-2, I'm sorry, I wrote it down.
Okay.
My apologies. Is it
Okay.
4-2, 6 o'clock, all right?
You want me to,
Well, we're just gonna make a motion real quick.
Motion to continue file number RDA, or file number SCC 2025D-03 Lakewood Farms Trust, care of Cape and Islands Engineering, Inc., 21 Great Hill Road, Sandwich, Mass. 02537, to the April 2nd meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Yeah, so once we have that correspondence with that, we'll be good to go. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to open RDA file number SCC 2025D-04, Patricia Wyman, care of Down Cape Engineering, file the request for determination for a proposed deck replacement of a single-family dwelling at 15 Captain Greaves Road, Sandwich, Mass., located at map 64, parcel 17.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. Dan Ojala, I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Down Cape Engineering in Yarmouthport, and helping the Wymans out with another modest tweak of their deck behind the home here. It's an area of homes all around. There's a small BVW tongue that comes in from the west, and so that is the resource area that affects the site. We're looking at a site that you had recently approved some work on, and what they'd like to do, the deck has become deteriorated that was there, and so they'd just like to replace that with a new deck. It's an opportunity to drop a set of stairs inside the deck footprint, so they're doing that. But it's a rather straightforward matter. It's no closer to the wetland than what's there. There's some patio on the first floor, but we're gonna put pervious pavers there instead, so we thought that that would be good. So it's, the patio and steps would be replaced, landscape steps to be used for walkout access, the proposed patio to be constructed out of a pervious material. And the existing decks and stairs are to be replaced generally within the existing footprint, no closer to the wetland. We are squaring it off just a tiny bit, but it's further back from the wetlands where that's happening. And seemed to us to be a matter that could come in as an RDA, wherein, you know, it's within your buffer, but doesn't affect it significantly, so need not be filed as a notice of intent. There's a flood zone, so there's a technical coastal bank at the flood zone line, but of course we're not really impacting that with open decks and patios, so no impact to the ability of that bank to contain floodwaters. Coastal flood zones generally aren't affected by, you know, de minimis amounts of changes in fill, and here there's practically zero. So we'll propose a work limit line around the site. We'll revegetate. It's all happening within existing lawn and landscaped area, and again, it's almost exactly the footprint that it is now. So we thought it reasonable to bring it as an RDA. There is a narrative that we went through, and I think the picture is perhaps one of the easier to look at, that we're just replacing that deck, squaring it off where that little bump out is, and you can see the wood is kind of deteriorated. That's the real reason for us to rebuild that and make it safe. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. I'd like to open up to staff comment.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I believe I've been to the site a couple times. We issued, I want to say it was a COC recently for that, the home. I believe they had an addition built on there. The proposed work is within lawn and previously altered areas. The wetland delineation is further back, and like, you know, this obviously doesn't really affect the resource area itself. It's in buffer. It is inland subject to coastal storm flowage, but just so you know, for any future projects, a wetland line is good for 3 years. That line was previously issued a COC on, and you know, we've been using the same line right along. I don't think the resource area has moved much, but if they want to do any future projects after this deck, I would recommend getting that line remarked, just because it's been a little while. But for the sake of this project and where it stands now, I have no problem recommending, I would say, a -2 determination, just because it's not just within the buffer zone, it's within the flood as well. But I can still add conditions in there too, same as a -3. It would just be a -2 because 3 is buffer zone only. And no appendix Gs were, data sheets were submitted for the BVW line, so we can't certify that it's a line, but that's just a condition that's added in there. And then when, you know, new projects happen or whatever, when they get the line redone, if they want to submit data sheets at that time, they can.
I think that's very reasonable.
And that's all I got.
I'd like to open it to public comment. Right, closing public comment and open it up to the board. Does anyone have any questions regarding this project? Straightforward with a -2. It's -2, right? You said -3 there real quick.
Yeah, sorry, -2 for this one. Yeah.
Yep. Good. All right. Sally, you want to get in there? Come on.
For a,
Yeah, you're just issuing a -2 determination for the file.
got it. I'd like to issue a -2 determination for RDA file.
Oh, yeah, motion.
Motion to approve RDA file number SCC 2025D04. Patricia Wynn.
Special and standard conditions.
With special and standard conditions.
As discussed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moved. Thank you.
Thank you for your time very much.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to continue DEP file number SE 66-2046 Norbert Sack, care of Cape and Islands Engineering, filed notice of intent for proposed reconstruction of existing retaining walls, decks, walkway, and stairs on a single-family dwelling at 137 North Shore Boulevard, Sandwich, Mass., located at map 70, parcel 113. We have an email correspondence to the conservation agent, Jenna Silva. Jenna, can we request a continuance on this project until April 2nd, April 2nd, 2025. The NHESP comment letter has not been issued yet. Thank you, Chuck of Cape and Islands Engineering.
Could we actually change that to the 16th, as I have several other hearings on that Wednesday?
Motion to continue to the April 16th.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, on to continued filings. I'd like to open DEP file number SE 66-2033, Peter Wild, care of Stantec Consulting Services. File notice of intent to relocate existing stockade fence, removal of trees, removal and upland relocation of approximately 94 cubic yards of wood chip, subject to land court ruling on proposed easement relocation at 46 and 64 Moose Road, East Sandwich, map 69, parcels 24 and 25. How are we doing?
Very good, thank you. Peter
What's your last name, Peter?
Durning, D-U-R-N-I-N-G, from the law firm Beryl Dana LLP for Idlewild Acres LLC.
And I'm Michelle Simino from Stantec Consulting.
Hi.
Hello.
Great. So, Mr. Commissioner, thank you. This is a continued hearing. I know we were here a few times in late November, December, and then we had to have a few continuances. But I wanted to check in with the commission as to where they believe they are in the process in terms of questions or comments. I think we've had a few public sessions and we've had some back and forth on the project, but I wasn't sure where the commission had questions or where it wants to go on the hearing.
Absolutely, thank you. I'd like to open up to staff comments.
I don't have any new comment. I can just kind of reiterate everything we've gone over. Wetland line does not need to be certified by the town because we didn't receive any data forms, which is fine. There was some concern about the pond that's closest to the proposed easement relocation. The pond was not created by the applicant, and its construction may have predated the Wetlands Protection Act in 1972, so that pond has been there right along. And that it's my understanding that this notice of intent is in response to land court order, and everything that I've reviewed seems to, this appears to be necessary to comply with that land court order. I think we've gone over everything a couple times now, so I think that covers all my concerns since we opened it.
I'd like to open up to public comment. Come on up. If you want to just come up, the microphone's right here. If you just want to state your name and address.
Mary McCarthy at 23 North Shore Boulevard Extension. Thank you. Hello, Commission. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm one of the residents that's represented by Bill Henchy, but he can't be here tonight. And I know he was here a couple of months ago, and I think he gave you all a really good background on the history down there and the land court. So I don't want to get into all that. I think you're pretty well informed about that. I do want to just reiterate, kind of like if I had to summarize in one sentence, not in legal terms, but like our residents, we just ask that when you make a decision that you consider all of the open orders, from history, from way back. There were violations, and we don't want those to get forgot about. I know it was a long time ago. A lot of you weren't here, and we just want to make sure that this notice of intent complies with what those orders were before and all the work that was done. So there's that. And then I also have two questions for you. And this is going to the land court ruling. So in the notice of intent by Peter Wild and the attorneys, it talks about moving the easement's being moved, the paper road, right? The land court has to move that from where it is to a different place. And it specifically says for purposes of a walking path. However, in the land court ruling, it's moving the way of a 50-foot easement and all the permissions that go along with a way. So not necessarily limited to walking, it could be cars, it could be trucks, it could be, you know, ambulances, things like that. Now, I know that there'd be new, permits needed if we were in fact wanting to build a road, and I don't know that that would ever happen, but it's really important to us that we maintain that right. So my question for you would be, that 50-foot area that he's proposing to move the easement to, does that comply with guidelines like for a 50-foot way? Like, we don't necessarily oppose what he's trying to do, we just want to ensure that it's in our rights and also like within the town's guidelines and what's right for the Conservation Commission. So that would be one question. The second question is in regards to, in the notice of intent, the removal of some wood chips along like North Shore Boulevard extension and where that fence is. And I would ask, well, if you look at the land court thing, it doesn't just say remove wood chips. It says to return that area in the way back to its original grading. And I think they even talk about it a berm. There was some, you know, there was a lot of filling in that space, more than just some wood chips. And I mean, I have pictures, like, I don't know if those are useful. They're kind of hard to see of what it was, you know, before that fence went up, like after the whole EPA thing, not like before the cranberry bog. And I can even send digital photos if that's helpful, but I wanted to ask how you would determine what that original grade is. And I know you're not the land court. However, I don't want to be back here because we didn't meet the, you know, the verdict of the land court. And I think that also overlaps with some of the orders that happened before of like regrading that area because of flood and everything else. So I just wanted to ask, and you consider how you determine where returning goes to.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think we can answer your question. We'll be deliberating among the board for sure, and we might, hopefully we answer your question with that.
Okay, so you'll think about that. All right, thank you very much for your time.
Is there any other public comment? All right, closing public comment and opening it up to the board.
Should we
Is
discuss
anyone on
those
the board
questions?
before?
Because I think
We've all been updated about the case numerous times, so we're all educated.
We
on
definitely have done
what
a
the
few
process
sidewalks
is.
too, you know what I
So we
mean?
know, I think we're not lacking in the historic data of this project. I do, there is removal of wood chips being proposed as part of the application. Can you just remind us what the land court order requested about the wood chip area in particular, or the grade?
I do.
Well, he's looking that up. I can tell the commission that we're removing approximately 93 cubic yards of fill associated with the wood chip. That's the berm. And so that's in land subject to coastal storm flowage. So that will be removed. Elevation, the flood zone elevation there is 14 across the whole land. So
And then it will be, it's proposed to be being maintained or be taken back to elevation 14 through the removal of the wood chips.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
yeah.
Yeah.
That was that area when we were up there.
Yeah,
to the
I
right,
remember
yeah.
that. Yeah. I think that it's, it was good for us to understand that that pond was developed, has historically been there, was part of the bog system. And, you know, it's definitely something that the commission feels the need to protect and route the road around. So I feel like this application makes a lot of sense in that way, that you're looking to kind of plan that out. And so I think that what we feel like would be appropriate is that we would approve the project with the condition that that no work would proceed unless the necessary relief from the land court is received. Does that feel
Yeah, land court approved, yeah,
Yeah.
And any new work would
And no-
require a full NOI,
any new work,
future work.
additional work
Yep.
outside of this area as well would need to be, come through with an approval.
So just one quick question to follow up, because I believe there is certain work in terms of removal of obstructions in the right-of-way that could be performed now that doesn't require the resolution of the second land court action. So I don't know if you phrased it as you did, that no work to proceed until the issuance of the second land court decision. I don't know if that is appropriate.
Staff, do you have any comment on that?
Thinking. Yeah, we just wouldn't, we would have to word the condition to state, you know, no work. Unless, we want to make sure whatever work is being proposed to be done complies with that land court order.
Correct.
So wording, because we don't want anything else going on in that, under that permit, like this permit is here to address.
I would say, because this permit is a notice of intent to address a land court order, so the work with the land court order would have to be, cannot start until the land court decides. If there's work that's outside of that land court order, which is what I think you're saying, that could start now? Is that what you're saying?
So there are two different land court actions to reference. There is one that is concluded and an order issued, and that is the bulk of the work that is proposed here, removing obstructions in the way. But for the relocation of the easement, that also requires land court approval.
Land court, okay.
So there was a subsequent action filed to relocate the easement, the roadway, from its trajectory through the pond to extend, for lack of a better term, more or less straight across. Okay. And the work that is detailed in the notice of intent that would be contingent upon the approval of the second land court is the extension of the stockade fence across the remainder of the way that would otherwise block the paper street.
Yeah.
We're not going to block the paper street unless and until the new land court decision issues saying, yes, the location of the easement is now going to be above where that stockade fence is. But for the portion of the work, absent the extension of new fencing, that other work can proceed now. It's the extension of the fence over the paper street portion that is contingent upon the issuance of a subsequent land court decision relocating.
I wonder if we could condition it, just two separate conditions.
Yeah.
This condition addresses the land court order that's already been satisfied.
Correct.
You can proceed with this work. You can't do the extension until you receive, and we can reference the specific land court numbers in that condition. I mean, we can condition it as specific as we need to.
Absolutely, yeah.
If that works for everyone.
No,
That's what we contemplated.
yeah.
And I think on that site visit, looking at the location of that stockade fence, seemingly it does satisfy that 50-foot right of way. And I think the question I had was would do that work? And it's certainly not you, but if the residents that abut, who have that legal access to that right of way, they are the ones that could perform that work to make it accessible by a vehicle. But when we visited, it looked like it satisfied the 50-foot right of way, which certainly is maybe a concern for neighbors.
Right.
So, sorry, is that the location of the existing fence?
The proposed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then if I can ask this, what's the work in the first land court order that's already been met? The work that you're proposing to do that land court is already supporting? Which part of the NOI is that covered? Sorry.
That's the removal of the wood chips.
Okay.
Removal of the wood chips.
Yep.
Relocation of the existing stockade fence to outside of the 50-foot right of way.
Okay.
which requires some tree removal.
And the removal of obstructions in the existing right of way.
For all those flag trees that we saw.
And the removal of obstructions within the existing right-of-way, I think the existing right-of-way may change locations. I think, and that's what, right, because you're proposing that right now, on paper goes through that pond, right? And you're proposing that it swoops up, right?
But effectively, opposite the existing residences, that 50-foot right-of-way
is still intact. So I think what we're just trying to do, and maybe you could help us do this, is that we want to make sure that land court, that you have approval for that easement adjustment prior to like removing all those trees. So let's just say wildly, something doesn't happen and that nobody agrees to that adjustment that you're proposing, your counterclaim. You know, we wouldn't necessarily want to see all those trees removed for no reason in that area if they don't agree, if there is not an agreement that there's going to be access would be allowed through.
Can I just access a plan for a moment?
Yeah, got the plans over there.
Because I think the land court that they have allows the obstructions to be removed. I think the one they're pursuing in land court now is the extension through the 50-foot buffer. So I think
the primary easement goes through that little pond, right?
Yeah,
And then your proposal is to swoop it up and move it closer to Ruse.
Right, but for this portion of the right-of-way, there are trees that would be slated for
Absolutely.
removal that can be performed now.
Absolutely. But this little segment here, in the buffer zone, that's new, that they haven't agreed to and everything. How can we condition that work to not just happen until you get approval that is?
I'm in agreement with that. That makes sense. That any work beyond the last residence can be conditional upon removal of
Great,
the
that's
second
what we
land.
were trying to get to, is like something that made sense there so that the court orders can kind of work themselves out.
I think that is a reasonable marcation.
and if land court comes back and there's new and additional work, you can amend the NOI.
That's right.
On top of that as well.
That's right.
So we would condition the work for beyond that first address. And then
not necessarily.
anything within the swoop
Yeah.
is pending.
Pretty much, I mean, you can use that as, a reference, but wherever the first land court, whatever that includes, that's all that can be, the approved land court is the work that can be done with the approval of this NOI.
Up to 19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A question, what would be the purpose of that? Wouldn't you have like a contractor be coming out and take out all of the, everything at one shot?
That's compliance with the land court.
Oh, okay, they have a deadline. Okay, all right.
That is what the land court ordered us to do.
I'm just curious.
Okay. Right, if there's any other comments, I think we can approve this NOI.
Just one quick comment, just to maybe address the lady's question. I just want to remind Jenna and the commission that with respect to the question about the pedestrian access and the rights and the language we had in the original notice of intent, we did issue a supplemental document to you clarifying that language, and it was supported by a copy of the land court. So just to let you know, that's on record. We did clarify that.
Yeah. What we had discussed as a group was that if the time ever comes that someone wants to make improvements, if they want to use their ability to improve that land, that would have to come through conservation.
Right.
And that would be a notice of intent that then we would review any of that as a entirely separate thing.
Yeah.
And I think we would also want, we wouldn't want multiple filings open. So this notice of intent would have to be closed out before we would entertain a new one.
Yep.
That way we don't have too many open orders being juggled
Yeah.
right now.
All All right, well, with those conditions that we had talked about, I think we can move to close this and, yeah, keep going. All right.
Motion to approve DEP file number SE66-2033, Peter Wild, care of Stantec Consulting Services, Inc., 46 and 64 Roos Road, East Sandwich, Mass. 02537, with standard and special conditions as discussed.
Second. All in favor? Approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you soon, guys.
Appreciate your time.
Just sign. Your name's not on there, come sign it.
I'd like to make a motion to continue DEP file number SE66-2043, Phyllis Ardino, care of Kroll Engineering, filed notice of intent for proposing raising of a single-family foundation home at 3 St. Council Drive, map 96, parcel 2. I have a correspondence here from Kroll Engineering, Robert Kroll. Good afternoon. Please continue our hearing for SE66-2043 until May 7th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Signed by Bob Kroll.
Second.
That's a lot of seconds. All in favor? Approved. All right, I'd like to open DEP file number SE66-2044, Matthew and April Forbes, care of Merrill Engineering. Land surveyors file the notice of intent to propose raise and replace of existing family dwelling at 101 North Shore Boulevard, located at map 70, parcel 96.
Good evening. For the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers representing the applicant. Also with me this evening is Ann McDermott, State Architect. We were before you, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Presented the project. The main reason for the continuance was for the Natural Heritage Letter. We have received it. They issued a no-take. One of their conditions was time of year restrictions, which I believe we all thought that's what they were put in there. So looks like we can move forward with the project. We did make a few changes to the plan that staff had recommended. We changed the limit of work from a silt fence to orange high-vis construction fencing to allow for the movement of the sand. We also added the gravel path from the front steps to the walkway. And we provided a detailed section of the 6-foot high wall that's now going to be 4 feet high. And we also showed some notes on the plan so that from the wall, about 20 feet back on that main slope, we put a jute mat, provide some bayberry shrubs on that slope to help maintain that slope and prevent any erosion on it, as well as the beach grass, which we originally had. So those are the main changes. If the board has any questions, we'd be more than happy to address them.
Thank you. I'd like to open it up to the staff comment.
So, I mean, my comments have since been mostly addressed with the revisions that you've made. We've got the NHESP letter. Shed has to be raised as well, high-vis construction fencing, and proposed timber walkway construction and all of that. My concern is the retaining wall. I understand it went from 6 feet to 4 feet, but per our regulations, any type of retaining wall goes against them. Anything higher than that one permitted timber, really just, no matter what it's made out of, unless it's, skirting, really acts as a barrier for that dune to migrate. So, I mean, per our regulations, we really can't permit retaining walls of any type. What I always try to push is additional jute netting and plantings to hold that dune back. Pushing the dune back a little bit, jute netting, plantings, and then, should have the same effect, although it may not be as quick as a wall would give you. But our regulations state we can't have concrete foundations or any structure that's going to split, the dunes and inhibit the migration of sand. So that's my main concern, is really any retaining wall. So
I'd like to open up to public comment. Closing public comment, open up to the board. Does anyone have any questions about this retaining?
I think the hard part is we don't like the retaining wall, but it is there, right? So, but there's really, the bylaws don't allow us to have like kind of like a reasonable position on the renovation of it, right? So it either has to stay in its condition or it has to go down to a timber. And I think that's just what it's saying.
If it does stay in its condition and it fails, which it will, it would have to get, it would have to go through an NOI process to get a timber wall. So they'll probably, it makes sense to do it. I think we're gonna have to condition a timber wall, but does it have to be 4 feet? I thought.
So that back side, if you've been to the site, it's only about 2 feet down from the back side of that wall. That back side is 4 feet. As you come down the right and left-hand side, you could step that down. That's not a problem.
Sure.
That can easily be stepped down if you look at the grades on site, but the backside wall right now is acting and holding that dune back. And I stated last time.
Don't want, right? Like that's kind of what you don't want. That's what the regulations are.
And I understand that. And if it wasn't there, I wouldn't be asking for it.
I know,
That's
that's our struggle though, is that there's really no provisions to allow that exception, that there is nothing, it just says no, like there can be no
we can't permit a
walls.
timber wall either?
You can permit up to 1 timber, and then.
Up to 6 inches?
Yeah, however big those are, but.
6 to 8
If it's
inches?
a 6-foot timber.
Right, oh my
One
God.
big 6 foot.
Yeah, I mean, I've run into other circumstances where, you know, these retaining walls, timber, concrete, whatever, exist in non-conforming structures, and they have been holding dunes back from people's driveways, and then they want to do work, and, you know, if the way the regulations state, as soon as you alter that non-conforming structure, you lose the right to the non-conforming structure, so.
Yeah, but this technically is a landscape wall, not a structure. So there is that
Well,
little nuance of definition.
It's holding
there.
4
It's
feet,
holding
it's up there.
Yeah, it's in the.
There's no drainage with the current CMU wall.
It really,
So it's gonna
it
fall.
really stinks too, but I mean, there's so much good vegetation behind it.
For sure.
That is definitely going away. That's,
But could it be mitigated? So that's the question is, would we condition it that it has to be removed, and then they would be proposing removal of vegetation that would have to be replaced in kind? That's large junipers that are
In
very
soil,
expensive and very difficult
Yeah.
to get established.
in soil removal too,
Sure.
because they'll lose driveways, existing driveway space.
well, they'll scrape it back to get,
Other
to
than,
keep it,
and
I'm
then
sure.
kind of pushing the dune, you know, gently back and replanting it with jute and, you know, stronger rooted vegetation. I mean, that would hold it back eventually.
Would you guys be open to continuing to another meeting and throwing us a different design? Because I think our hands are tied with permitting a retaining wall, but I think there's a way around. I think there's a solution, you know.
I'm
not
not
a way
sure
around
that
the
whether
regulation.
the applicant will just say, we're just gonna leave the wall as is. So I'm not trying to throw that out to you, because
No,
I've come
absolutely.
before you a ton of times and you know that's not me.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out the best way to get it to move forward.
Yeah.
If it wasn't existing, I wouldn't be asking for it.
Right.
It's, you know, doing a renovation project, we're trying to make something better. I understand that's what the regs say.
What do the regs say about repair?
Well, that's what I would say,
existing concrete
if you
structure?
guys come back and
Is
you.
there any repair?
It would be, that would be considering altering a non-conforming
Exactly.
structure.
A repair
and
is
losing the
altering.
right to.
So right now, you
Even if it was
no
somebody's
touch.
foundation.
Right.
Their home and it's crumbling, as soon as you start trying to repair that, you're now altering a non-conforming structure and it has to meet today's standards.
I think if we continue to the next meeting, it gives you guys a chance to look at an alternative. And if you decide to remove the retaining wall from the project, we would be conditioning something of like, if we see damage or repair, it's gonna come back as an amendment to the NOI. I think that would, so that,
I'm a little confused. What are you saying?
so I'm saying if we continue this, right, and they can't find a solution, so they decide to leave the retaining wall
Yep.
as it is and not touch it, keep it non-conforming, but they're not altering it.
Got it?
And then we put a condition in that would say if we see any, through our inspections, if we see any altering, repairing, or removal or change of the wall at all, then it would be going back to an amended part of the NOI because now you're altering a non-conforming.
It would be an enforcement order.
Okay.
Well, yeah, an enforcement order, they can come, well, give them the option.
Ideally,
to
it would
come
be
in.
before you decided to alter the law.
Sure,
You know what, this, you know,
but
we
if,
wanna
say,
make
like,
it-
say someone's with the excavator and they're, you know, they're putting all this stuff in, and
Can
he
it
bumps
work?
it, and he cracks the thing, and someone goes over there and tries to, like, if they hit it, like,
And
it's
not
gonna
conforming,
be.
The reality is, it's gonna be very difficult to do this work without that wall gone.
Exactly. So I
So
think they're gonna, I
have
think
to
the
deal
best
with the
thing would
wall.
be to continue to find a better solution.
So a graded solution with the timber to
Something,
conform, right?
yeah.
I think so. I mean, I think if it's
I mean,
probably, yes.
A one timber wall is like 6 inches high.
Yeah.
Well, let's
So
just call
what-
it a curve.
I bet you, but I bet you somewhere in the setback, I'm sorry, somewhere in the guidelines, there's a required, or there's an allowed setback. So you did one timber wall and then say you had like a, you know, you might be able to batter it up at a very,
Plateau.
you know,
Kind of like stage.
you definitely can't put them on top of each other, but
Yeah.
you may be able to spruce it up, but
Yeah,
you just lose your rise over
I'm just
run.
worried about stability.
For sure.
Is what,
For sure.
really what we're worried about.
I don't love this because I think in this particular case, it makes more sense to allow them to have a wall, but I think that the precedent and the slippery slope of allowing any kind of wall in a dune like this is probably worse than having the vegetation be pulled back. And I think, Tim, the reality is it's probably gonna be hard to build that without removing that wall, so in the case where you come back and you say, you know, we're gonna keep the wall, how would you get there?
They're gonna have to build a ramp. I mean, we've talked with a contractor. You'd have to build a ramp in front of it to get up there.
Yeah.
Probably over by the right-hand side
So,
where the garage is.
Where the garage exists, where we're taking it out. So
Is that just, I've been to the site, but it's
Yeah.
been a minute. Does that wall connect to the garage?
Yes.
that wall itself is the back wall and the side
So then-
wall of the garage.
And are you proposing to remove or do anything with the garage?
We're removing it,
Removing it, okay.
Is it
Replacing it or
access?
just removing it?
just putting the shed back in that spot.
And so the shed would have to be raised
Yes.
24 inches for dune standard, but then the wall wouldn't, technically.
Yeah, the
Because
wall
the wall would need
just,
to
the wall
be-
just doesn't work in this case with the
Yeah.
regulations.
Yeah, today's regulations don't allow for it, because otherwise it would be, you'd have to raise the wall 24 inches.
It's a whole redo
That does
of
not make
this,
sense,
of the
so-
front, of the front yard design that we're seeing here.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole, it changes the,
So the board,
changes things.
I thought there was one a few lots down that the board recently approved.
It's a 99, I think.
Yeah.
With
A timber.
how big?
If I had to guess, I'd say 6 rows, maybe 7, 8.
You said 99. I can look into it just to see
Yeah.
what conditions were issued, you
It
know.
might be 98 or 99. It's 2 houses on that lot.
North Shore? Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's always another design.
Yeah,
But-
I
but
know. But you
a
guys could
6-inch
also
wall.
you could find 99 and bring it
Yeah.
in front of us and
Yeah.
show the you know. I think, I wouldn't, I think there's something here that we can work with. I think it just requires us to another, meeting.
I think the biggest issue is that's the only place they can park.
Right.
And
Yeah,
if the dune goes, it's going out into the street.
Exactly.
yeah,
So it's like,
but the regulations don't allow sense to be made. I think in this particular case.
Well, they're in place so the regulations are in place so that we don't inhibit the movement of sand. That buildup behind that wall wouldn't have been there if that wall never got built.
Yeah.
That would have been a much more gradual slope and that dune would have migrated. The reason why it's so steep is because of that nonconformance. And technically the garage is nonconforming too, so altering that structure, it's attached to the wall. That's a nonconforming
well, we
structure.
just take everything from frontwards, you know.
Right.
If
Front of
that
the
wall, if If that wall had to go away, it's looking at yours.
It is rough looking.
All of that grade has
think
to
it's
drop down to
elevation.
8,
Yeah,
elevation 8.
I think it's like 9 at the base of that wall. And
9.
up to where the septic is 20.
So you.
Nine's
lose
existing or
Nine's
nine's
existing.
what's proposed
at the
grade?
No, the existing base of the wall.
Okay.
So
What-
the top would be 13 plus or minus.
The sides all change.
13 over.
The side
Sorry,
vegetation.
40.
Well, I'm saying 13 with a 4-foot wall.
Sure.
And then it was going up to the natural 20.
Yeah. And how, what's the run of for that? What do you think, like 12?
It's probably
50 feet?
30 to 40 feet, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably about 30 to 40 feet. It's just gonna be, my concern is the steepness of the slope.
It's gonna go pretty high.
But I also, I mean, Jenna had a good point. If that wall wasn't there, it would be migrating. The whole point of this thing going up on pilings with the, was so it can go through. Yeah.
And then the whole reason to, raising the shed 24 inches
Right.
that's right next to it, so the dude can
Yeah,
migrate.
I think you
into
just
the
have to,
wall.
I think it's like a cut and dry thing. We have to go straight by the reg,
Yeah.
or we have to really condition it in a very special case with some very
Yeah.
reasonable thoughts as to why. Have you ever come across this? The only thing that I'm thinking of is there's so much loss of habitat when we remove this wall. Because now you have to peel back the grade for all that time so you can create, recreate that slope. The side slopes have to lose all of, the side yard has to lose all of its vegetation.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, if that's how today's regulations are, I don't see a way to, I'm sure we can get creative, but I don't see a way where we can allow something that goes against the regulations, and then any vegetation that got destroyed by removing the non-conforming structure would be on the applicant to replace. So I mean, that habitat, I understand the longevity of
It's
the
like
habitat.
super established
Right,
stuff
so it doesn't happen
versus
overnight.
not.
Your access is over that wall, isn't it?
Yes.
So how much, if we're talking about existing area and say you're only gonna take up this side, that was already gonna get removed, not removed, but you were already removing that vegetation. So pretty much half of the area that we're talking about is going to be replanted.
It would be, yes, correct.
We're already halfway there.
Some more plants in there. Some more
So if we
juice.
did it
Some more
halfway
plants.
higher,
Yeah, what I think we should do is just continue to the next meeting and let's see if there's gotta be a solution here. There's gotta be
I'm
something.
gonna need the 16th too, because I'm in Falmouth on the 2nd.
Okay, all right.
And no, if you guys would Zoom, I could try to.
We're working on it.
We're getting stuff there.
We got this thing.
All right, we'll do a motion if someone wants to do that motion. The 16th.
I'll move to continue DEP file number SE 662044, Matthew and April Forbes, care of Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors at 101 North Shore Boulevard, Sandwich, Mass. 537 to the April 16th Conservation Commission.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I'll shoot you guys an email tomorrow about that address.
Okay,
And then
yeah.
you
let me
can
know.
send me the approval.
I want to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do not have any extensions on the agenda. We have some certificates of compliance. I guess, just instead of opening, we'll just go one by one and see, how they're all looking.
Sure, however you want to do it.
Yeah, we'll do that. So the first one is, this file number SE 66-1640 for 52 Salt Marsh Road.
Yep, that one was, I believe, for primarily sand renourishment and vegetation. I did a site visit on probably the windiest day ever. But everything was well vegetated and stabilized. There was no grass blowing around or anything. It looked fine. So I recommend a complete COC.
Okay. I'd like to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number SE 66-1640. Gene Jordan, care of Prime Engineering, filed a notice of intent for dune nourishment, 52 Salt Marsh Road, Sandwich, located at map 76, parcel 35.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jenna, did you do the site visit?
I did.
So then, all right, so we'll look at file number SC 66-1651, Peter Wild, 46 and 64 Roos Road.
That one, did a site visit this morning, met with both Peter Wild and representation. Everything along with that notice of intent, I believe, was for relocation of an existing single family to a new location. That house has since been picked up and moved. So it looks fine. Everything has been stabilized. The house looks great. It's that smaller house right behind the pond there. So I didn't have any issue with a complete COC recommendation for that either.
All right, I'd like to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number SE 66-16151, Peter Wild, Care Conservation Inc. Filed a notice of intent for proposed relocation of existing single family to a new location at 46 and 64 Roos Road, East Sandwich, located at map 69, parcels 24 and 25. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then DEP file number SE 66-1623, Peter Wild, same 46 Roos Road. How did that one look?
I did that one this morning as well in the same swoop. That was originally for the raise and rebuild of the existing larger house there at number 46, and then was later amended for a ground-mounted solar array, which seemed to be in fine working order, very well vegetated site. Solar arrays raised up a little bit on concrete slabs. Looks very stable. There's an electrical box that looked fine as well. I have no issues with a complete COC as well for that one.
All right, I'd like to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number SE 66-1623AM1, Peter Wild, Care Conservation Inc. Filed an amendment to a valid order of conditions proposing to build a solar field at 46 Roos Road, East Sandwich, Mass, located at map 69, parcel 25. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Moved. Okay. All right, and then DEP file number SE 66-1113, Bruce Harper at 313 Phillips Road.
Also did a site visit over on that side of Sandwich. That was for a septic replacement. The site was well vegetated, and I believe the septic went under the driveway, so there really wasn't that much impact to the dune itself over there. The as-built they submitted was the one that was accepted by the Board of Health, which we accept those in the same, in the same caliber there. So, yeah, complete COC for that one as well.
Okay. All right, I'd like to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number SE 66-1113, Bruce Harper, care of CJ Engineering, filed notice of intent for a septic system repair at 313 Phillips Road, Sandwich, Mass, located at 95, parcel 12. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, perfect. We did other business at the beginning of the agenda. We'll do approval of minutes. Did everyone look at those? And
So I wanted, I know I wanted to say no on my abstentions. I wanted to vote no.
Yes, I think you did. I not right. Which one was it?
The 167% increase in habitable space one.
For sure. Okay, so you voted no on that.
Yeah,
not abstained.
that's right. As well as the.
Okay.
I think you could.
And the other one was 345 Phillips. I have you down as abstained.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so that one's good.
That one's no.
That one's a no. Any other changes from you guys? Okay.
we can approve that next meeting.
You can approve it now. If
Okay,
you want,
yeah.
Just those two changes, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Like to make a motion to approve the minutes of 3/5/2025 with the minor changes.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, Lee. Okay, they're good? All right. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the March 19th, 2025 Sandwich Conservation Commission at 7:40 p.m. All in favor? Moved. Please, thank you.